Hey there, everyone. So I've got a sort of breakout session today. Normally, I would be talking just about the day at hand. These are the daily forecasts after all. And I just want to thank all my new subscribers and all my regular subscribers who have fed back to me that they absolutely love the dailies. It was an experiment. I'm going to carry on doing it. So thank you for all that encouragement. But Saturday is actually quite quiet. And seeing as it's the 1st of August, I thought it'd be a brilliant time to talk about what's coming up, but also the impending eclipse season. Now, that reminded me very much about a session I did in my membership group on Wednesday night, because I'm having a couple of weeks off, so I'm not going to be doing any sessions. And so I wrapped a few up, really linking in the full moon that we've just had in Aquarius to the solar eclipse, and then later on to the lunar eclipse. I really see that there is a complete flow of energy. So I want to talk through that a little bit. But first, I just wanted to come back to something I said last Sunday, in last Sunday's edition, when I was talking about this week ahead and how important it was going to be. I mentioned that I had my eye on Spain, and that Spain, for some reason, I like to watch patterns, not just planetary ones, but what goes on in the media, because I think we're being communicated with, whether it seems like that or not. I just think everything that we get to observe, whether it's in music, film, TV, news, papers, blogs, whatever, I just see patterns, and then I correlate them to the planets. And I'm sure you do too if you're watching this channel. But I had noticed like a few times that there was a lot going on around Spain. I haven't actually looked at Spain's chart at all, which is kind of interesting, because as an astrologer, that'd be the first thing you'd think of doing, right? But I just haven't. But given that the solar eclipse is happening there on the 12th of August, so it's this month, that raised my attention to it. And of course, with the World Cup last month, and the fact that they won, I just thought it was really odd during the halftime with all of their entertainment. Yeah, there was some love and together and inclusiveness messages, but there were lots of messages about that seemed quite angry. Lots of fire and lots of passion, and it just seemed really sort of aggravated to me. It just seemed like there was something a little bit edgier about it. And of course, as they were talking about things being on fire, actually in Spain, there were some really big fires. But it's something, I don't know what it was, but I just said very sort of publicly on Sunday, I've got my eye on Spain, something's coming. And then just in the last day, I heard that there's something going on in Ceuta, which is, I believe, belongs to Spain, but it's in Northern Africa. And whatever has occurred in Ceuta is big enough to cause some problems for Europe. Italy has made a stand and said, because of what's going on, we're revoking if I've got this right, I hope I have, we're revoking the Schengen travel arrangements that we have between us. Basically, in the EU, there's a really big agreement, that Europeans, anyone who's classed as a European resident, can move between the countries really freely. And so this is starting to rock Europe. And so I just say it's interesting, just a couple of weeks before the total solar eclipse, which is, of course, right in, it's hitting Spain exactly. And with the eclipses, one thing that's always said is 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after, stuff starts to get a bit eggy. That's my official word for it. It's a bit eggy. And it was literally just after the full moon. So I think that's a bit of a pattern, don't you? And so that's going to take us, we've got another eclipse on the 28th of August. And then 2 weeks after that, it will have the new moon, the first one in September. So this is quite a big window that we're talking about. Now, I'm not going to go as far as September, though. I have to say, in the first week in September, there's some nice stuff happening. We've got Venus in her own sign, in sign of Libra. We've also got Mercury in his own sign, in the sign of Virgo. So there are some nice things going on early September, some really good dates if you're wanting to launch something, FYI. But anyway, they were my observations. And I just thought, it's interesting just to come back to that. Also, what I think is kind of interesting as well, lots of people have been talking about the basket, which early on I called a boat, because for me it kind of makes sense that it's a boat. It's a container. It's holding potential. And I see that the boat is like the movement is going from Pluto right the way through to Jupiter. And I think that Jupiter is leading the planets away from Pluto. That's just the way my mind works and how I'm sort of interpreting it. Now, I don't know if I said this publicly in one of my videos or if I said it in my community. I can't really remember, honestly. But one thing that this reminds me of is when Pluto and Jupiter came together, they had a conjunction in December, was it 2020? November, December 2020. So it was after the start of COVID, the phenomenon of COVID. Now, as that was coming in, as COVID was coming in at the end of 2019, lots of astrologers were all saying, oh my God, what's going to happen in January? Because we had Saturn, we had Jupiter, we had Pluto all coming together, coalescing in the sign of Capricorn, which of course is all about big business. And, Capricorn, it's an ambitious sign and it does great things. But to think of Pluto and Saturn that are so powerful, so strong, coming together in a very strong sign that honors the corporations more than maybe the people, it was a little bit worrying. And I always think that when you get pairs of planets acting together, you should always look at where they were last when they were in a conjunction. And so they were coming into a conjunction as the COVID phenomenon came about. And so there was the conjunction between Saturn and Pluto. Then there was the exact conjunction between Pluto and Jupiter. And then later on, I think on my birthday that year, there was the conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn. And the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction was 0 Aquarius. Of course, Aquarius is a very important sign right now. Where the great conjunction, and that's what a Saturn and Jupiter conjunction is called, the great conjunction, where that occurs, it's always sowing the seeds for a new generation and a new generation of thinking and being. They have a 20-year cycle. And, these cycles go in threes. And there's this lovely kind of pattern involved with their cycles. And so it was important. And it's interesting because soon after, we had Pluto start to ingress into Aquarius. We also, so we've had this very strong Aquarian energy ever since the start of the COVID phenomenon. And of course, now where we are, Jupiter has, gone into an opposition with Pluto. Saturn is already over halfway across. We've also got Neptune and Uranus and Chiron all in between, and Jupiter's the fastest, he's moving. And so if you think of Pluto and his symbology, he's the lord of the underworld. So he governs like massive wealth, secrets, everything that's hidden, big pharma, anything that wants to be controlled, world control, health control, power games, criminality. I mean, it sounds like I'm painting a really dismal picture of him, but especially in the sign of Capricorn, we get these massive power plays. And of course, Saturn, when he was in Capricorn, was also in a massive power play. Truthfully, we saw this coming on a little bit before then, actually, because we had Saturn, and this is going back, before 2020, we had Saturn in Scorpio, and we had Pluto in Capricorn. So they were in what's known as mutual reception. They were in each other's signs. And that was a time when I saw a lot of global power being consolidated. So I see it from those times to the COVID times. And now, isn't it interesting that in this last week, the energy of COVID and what fueled it and maybe what's been hidden about it is starting to come out. And of course, Jupiter is bringing light, is making everything so big it can't be ignored, is also about expansion, also maybe about our spirituality and our religion. Obviously, religion can be a big power game as well. Let's not forget that. But Jupiter is sort of expanding things and bringing things into the light. That's not to say Jupiter is without fault, but he's known for being a champion of humanity. He's known for supporting. He's known for being a feel-good planet and very much about well-being. And in terms of power, I would say Pluto wants to have complete power, whereas Jupiter, Yeah, he wants to share the vision, and sure, he likes to be in charge, but he also likes to engage people to work with him. You know, he wants it to be a good crack. So what I'm really seeing is we're going on this journey, and Jupiter is kind of like leading all the planets away from Pluto. And to me, that's what seems to be occurring right now. And I know it sounds like it might have come out of some kind of mythological story that that is what actually is happening. But to me, that's, I really feel like we're seeing something very ancient being expanded before our very eyes, like this ancient story. Yeah. And I think things are starting to be revealed. And so, yeah, this is quite a disruptive time, I imagine, you know, especially if your reality is being stretched in such a huge way. So anyway, that was what I wanted to start on, because I just see all these patterns coming back. So let's go deeper into what I was talking about. So in terms of Saturday, and this is another reason why I've hijacked this episode to talk more about the month ahead and also the eclipse season, because Saturday has no major aspects. So it's got no Ptolemaic aspects. What I mean is like on Saturday, there's no exact conjunctions, squares, oppositions, trines, sextiles between the moon or any planet. Only little bitty energies. And so what I really think about Saturday is it's an unscripted day. You know, this is a day to not worry about what's going on, actually to have some fun, let your hair down, put your feet up, just try and relax a little bit, because, you know, whatever is going on in the world right now, I believe we're all part of, and our vibration counts. And if we're all frustrated and tight in our energy and really like tense, that's going to come across. That's not going to create much ease, joy, or glory. It's not going to create much freedom for us. And of course, all that tenseness, I think, is felt throughout the world. So that's Saturday in a nutshell. Take it off, have some fun, let your hair down, and relax, because there's much bigger things at play. And I think to be able to make your mind up about things and to enter into things feeling full and whole, sometimes we need to take the foot off the gas a little bit, because we can't see the full picture when we're zooming into our future and not reflecting. We need to stop. And so I think Saturday is a bit of a standstill. Now, on Wednesday night, I linked in to my group the energies from the full moon through to the total solar eclipse on the 12th of August, and also to the total lunar eclipse on the 28th of August, because I see them as a flow. And so what came through to me, because I'm not exactly just an astrologer, I also kind of like semi-channel what I see. I kind of feel it as if the planets are talking to me, which I know probably sounds nuts, but that full moon, I think, has really kicked off whatever was brewing with the basket, or like I say, I call it the boat. And it's interesting actually now retrospectively that I called it the boat, because there's been so many things going on with water and traveling through water, because that's what you usually travel through water with. Of course, the Spanish situation that's going on right now was with thousands of swimmers. And then we've got things going on in Hormuz. So yeah, boat seems actually quite an apt description, because we are making a crossing of sorts. So anyway, that full moon, we had the sun, which again is illuminating, working with Jupiter. And it wasn't just working with Jupiter. Jupiter was in a cazimi. So Jupiter was super strength. Sun was really shining and making Jupiter's awareness of what's going on really strong. And then the moon, in a conjunction with Pluto, the full moon no less, was absolutely stirring up every kind of shadow that we may have felt in the past, and also stirring all the shadows in the world that maybe we need to know about. And so I'm not surprised that stuff is happening since this full moon, and now that we're into the pre-eclipse season of August. And so this is a very strong and dynamic energy that has sort of collected all of our thoughts and feelings and potentials from the boat time, the basket time, and now it's getting ready to take it forwards. And so to me, I think this is a time of revelation. And in my group, I said this is a revelationary time where stuff is coming up. Full moons always bring stuff out. You know, full moons, it's like when we get our spot outbreaks. On the day of the full moon, in fact, I had this massive water retention. It's like my body couldn't hold it anymore. You know, and we were awake at night because stuff comes up from our unconscious mind. So yeah, I think it was a revelationary time. Now, when we look at how the picture has changed by the time of the 12th of August, you'll see that Jupiter is racing off a little bit and is moving out of the boat. It's still there. It's not as exact as it was. In fact, Mercury is just like filling in for Jupiter. So you've got Pluto at 3, Neptune at 4, Uranus at 5, and Mercury at 5. So it's still pretty exact. But we've subbed in Mercury, and Mercury is in a conjunction with Jupiter. So the boat energy is still ongoing. But Jupiter and Mercury, if there's a message that needs to be heard, everyone's going to hear it. I mean, Jupiter was the wing guy. So if you go back to the pre-COVID days with Pluto, which can represent death and dying and regeneration and saving people and victims and rescuers and these really big stories. Also huge stories of fear, fear for our loved ones. And obviously Pluto's associated with Scorpio, which is a sign that is absolutely about protection. If you think of his whatever it is called, his stinger, there's a lot going on there. And Saturn, he's a really good middle manager. He is going to manage everything, coordinate everything about COVID. Jupiter was the storyteller. Jupiter was the one that worked with the two powerful planets to disseminate the story wide. So the fear that needed to be heard, it was heard and felt. It was surround sound fear. In fact, it became a show. It became like Broadway, with people doing their dances in the hospitals and recording themselves. Jupiter added in that kind of joviality and all these memes. Jupiter made it socially acceptable. So Jupiter, he's still going to be doing the same. He might not be now spreading the message about COVID, but Jupiter is now spreading a new message. And Mercury is maybe going to bring this message up even faster because Mercury is a super fast planet. He's quite gobby when he's in a fire sign. He's just recently had some reflection time. Maybe he's been on the naughty step, who knows? But he went into the old emotions, brought up a lot of stuff historically. Now he's coming forwards and he's ready to tell more of a story. So that's interesting that that's happening at the same time as we've got the solar eclipse at 20 degrees in the sign of Leo. Now on this day as well, we've got Saturn beautifully in a trine with the sun and the moon. Now, I don't know if I've got my book. It's not on my shelf, but I've got this really amazing book, and I've referenced it loads of times in my videos, talking about transactional analysis, where Saturn is the parent, the sun is the adult self, and the moon is the childlike self. So we've got a really great workable balance between all parts of ourselves and all age ranges in society. Younger people, middle-aged people, older people, possibly all working together. So to me, this is really quite exciting. There's a lot of strength and continuity about this total solar eclipse. What it's bringing about is a sense of continuity related to the energy of Leo, which I think is about our self-expression. And so self-expression is a huge theme, massive. Now, there's some really helpful aspects going on this day. And you can see Mercury and Venus in an exact sextile. You can also see that Venus and Uranus are in an exact trine on this day. In fact, the 12th is a really big day. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4 or 5 really great exact planet to planet interactions on that day, not including the eclipse. The 12th is absolutely the biggest day of that month ahead. When I've had a look ahead, it's huge. So it's not to be forgotten. And if you can remember what you were doing in 2017, August of 2017, that might give you a bit of a heads up as to what is new and what's coming up on your radar. Funnily enough, August 2017 was when my husband and I and our kids moved to Portugal. So moving was a huge thing for us. But this solar eclipse is in the same part of your chart as it was back in 2017. So if you can noodle your way through that, should give you a bit of a clue as to what might be going on. Kind of helpful. Yes, we've got these lovely supportive energies, this minor grand trine here. And of course, Venus is also working with Jupiter. Jupiter's working with Uranus. So there's a lot of, to me, this is an energy that we're building with, Saturn and the sun and the moon, and then Mercury, Venus, Uranus and Jupiter. To me, this is energy where something is coming about. Let's not forget Neptune and Jupiter working together, Neptune and Mercury working together. So I really think we're trying to create something with this total solar eclipse. So maybe use that in your flow. And then we come to the lunar eclipse on the 28th of August. Now, this is going to be in the sign of Pisces. Now, of course, Pisces is, if you think about the sign of Pisces, and maybe you know a Pisces, I've got moon in Pisces. I love the Pisces energy. The Pisces energy is very much about dissolving things. And it's associated with the 12th house as well. This is the 12th sign. They share a resonance in as much as, the sign of Pisces describes how things might be working. So things might be dissolving. Things might be getting a little less sure. Things might be getting a little bit more creative, a little bit more spiritual. There might be more possibilities coming out of this lunar eclipse, but it is also a full moon. And so there's likely to be some stress. Now, interestingly, the sun is in the sign of Virgo, which is wanting to keep everything exact and understood and helpful, and neatly packaged and practical. But the moon is really pushing us into this new area where it's saying it doesn't need to be practical, it just needs to be felt. Let's see what goes on. But there's this energy of the water, I would say. Obviously this total lunar eclipse is in Pisces. Now, the thing that really strikes me about this is we've got Uranus right in between, kind of cracking the energy between the sun in Virgo wanting everything to be really perfect and correct and functional, and then the need to let something die and let it go and kind of melt into everything. Pisces could be that final dissolve. It could be I'm not suggesting any of us are going to die, but although we will all one day, but like the last breath and that release where all of a sudden we're out of our body. To me, this is a moment of maybe massive compassion. It's the release of something. And Uranus in a T-square to both of them it's like breaking it. It feels quite decisive. And so I get this feeling that we're split. Now, lots of psychics in the past have spoken about things like the bifurcation of planet Earth. And whilst I think they're good stories, do I know them as a factual thing? I really don't. But and I'm not saying this is what's happening, by the way. I'm just referencing different things that I've heard about. But I really think that it's like we're already making a choice. To me, it feels like there's a choice we're making between the rational, believed, this is how it all is, definitely 100%, and actually, no, none of it's real. And actually, yes, this is completely the opposite. What really grabs my attention is this full moon is in a conjunction with the North Node, suggesting that we're really meant to be recognizing that none of it really stands up. And actually, maybe we're in a mystery. Maybe we're crossing over across the sea from, our real lives, and we're coming into something a little bit richer in the imagination and not so much on hard facts. So to me, it feels like there's something really kind of interesting going on. Now, both of them are united and helped by Chiron. And so that really brings in this healing energy as well, which I like. They're both also helped by Mars, which is bringing in a sense of vigor, like we need to be vigorous in ourselves. And, when we're strong in our bodies and also strong in our nervous systems, we can really easily let go of some of the rational energy that seems like, oh, this is absolutely how it is, and I can't live if I don't have my structures. Because to me, this is suggesting that we're coming into a really, really unstructured time. Do I think it's going to be unstructured forever? I absolutely don't. But to me, this is making me wonder if we're going into a time of chaos where nothing makes sense, where we're kind of tumbling into a rabbit hole, or we're shrinking in size all of a sudden. Like there's some kind of like storyline that we're falling into. It just feels like nothing makes sense for a bit. Obviously the planets are going to change and move as they always do, and things are going to shift, but seeing the total lunar eclipse going into Pisces, the North Node is still aligning us to where the moon is, and so I think things are coming into chaos while there's a new sense of something coming in, because obviously the North Node has just recently gone into the sign of Aquarius. So there's some big stuff, and it's going to take, I think, some courage to let go of what has made sense to us. And I think Uranus up here is saying, well, we've actually got the choice of how we do that. So I think, yeah, this is going to be a big month when we sew it all together. And so what I suggested with my group is, this recent full moon was the revelation where stuff was coming out. The 12th is showing how we want to build things and construct our own reality. And then the 28th of August might be when we start to cross over, not literally cross over, but make a decision and start moving in that new shape, until things around us make more sense. But they're just a few thoughts. I'm probably going to do a 12 sign forecast for this, for the eclipse, actually, because I think that would be very helpful. Anyway, to finalize, and to sort of bring this into land, I just want to share a few thoughts about what else is happening in August. This is a chart for midway through. This is on the 15th of August at midnight in London. I'm in this London time zone. We've got quite a few planetary ingresses. So Venus is heading into Libra. I mentioned this earlier because Venus is going to be in her own sign from the 6th. So she's extra lucky around that time. On the 9th, Mercury is going into Leo. You'll see he's actually moving signs a couple of times. So he's going to get a little bit louder and a little bit more bold. And then on the 25th, he's going into Virgo. Now, from the 25th of from the 25th of August until Venus goes into Scorpio, and I'll give you the date. I'm just checking. Hang on. Yeah, from the 25th of August until the 10th of September, Mercury's in Virgo and Venus is in Libra. They're both in signs that they rule. So if you've got anything planned, during those times, Mercury and Venus are really helpful. They're really helping you move forwards, because the chart for the start of whatever it is you're doing is going to be supported by Mercury. He's super strong. He's exalted in Virgo. And it's going to be really helpful, well-designed, beautiful, peaceful, because Venus is the ruler of Libra. So that's pretty helpful. And just before that, before Mercury goes across, you have Venus and the Sun in their own sign. Of course, the Sun's going into Virgo on the 23rd. So you're not going to get a chance where all three are in their super signs. But they're all going across. Mars is going into Cancer on the 11th. That's going to be interesting. And then the mean North Node is going into Aquarius on the 18th. So what that means is between now, because obviously the true North Node went into Aquarius just recently, now until the 18th is that sort of unspoken, uncharted territory with the nodes. It feels like we're straddling the two, but by the 18th, we're really fully into it. Now we've got Chiron going retrograde from the 3rd of August. And so our healing journey is going to get very, very personal and very internalized in August. We've already got Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto all retrograde as well. So we've got some very strong planets retrograde. It's going to be creating a lot of, I think, reviewing our life, reviewing our power, reviewing our creativity and our spirituality, reviewing our standards, and then our feelings, our hurts, our wounds, and where we feel vulnerable. So there's going to be a lot for us to process, which I think is going to be helpful. And these are the biggest dates. So the 10th has a lot of stuff with Mercury and Venus, and then Pluto, Neptune, and Chiron. I put that down to the fact that Venus and Mercury have just recently gone into their new signs. And of course, by the 10th, both of them are hitting, like the 3, 4, 5 degrees of their signs, and kind of making exact aspects to Pluto, Neptune, and Chiron. And then on the 12th, both of them are making more exact aspects. And of course, the 12th is the day of the total the total solar eclipse in Leo. There's 2 more things I want to share. And the 15th is a great day. I love the 15th because that's when the Mercury and Jupiter are conjunct in Leo. So if you have a strong Leo theme, if you've got something that you need to do, something where you need to speak and communicate something, the 15th with that Mercury-Jupiter conjunction is beautiful, really, really beautiful. And then on the 27th, Mercury Cazimi, the mind is super strong on that day. I think the Mercury Cazimis lasts for about half a day. So that's quite a strong one too. So that brings me to the end of my little sort of dive into everything. Hope that was helpful. Not strictly about Saturday, but absolutely about August, absolutely about the patterns that we're all seeing around the world right now. I'm sure it's not just me. I'm sure you're all seeing it too. And just to let you know, we're seeing this together. We're all witnessing these things together. And, if you want to talk about it a little bit within the community, please feel free to come and join me. But if not, I'll see you in another daily real soon. In fact, tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the week ahead, specifically the week ahead. So have a great one. Have a beautiful weekend, or as we say in Portugal, bom fim de semana, and catch up with you real soon. Bye for now.